Hi, and welcome to Rediscover Who You Are, a healing series for moms to reconnect with yourself, feel more joy, and become the inspiration for your child or children. I created this series to gain awareness, to help you gain awareness, tools, and resources to let go of the past, to live in the present, and to show up fully appreciating yourself and your life that you have right now so that you can live in joy and happiness. This series is your resource for actionable advice and tools that will get you out of your head and into your heart so that you can be the woman you truly desire to be. Make the series the best for you and commit now to taking one action step after each interview that you're watching. Taking action is key. It's the key to transformation. I'm your host, Brenda Kiss, and I'm so excited today to be interviewing Dr. Nicole Journey. Did I say that right? Yes.
You got it.
Thank you. She is a spiritual health doctor and a cheerleader for Agents of Awesome. I love that. Dr. Nicole is an author, speaker, mama, and specialist in spiritual health who descends from a 450-year lineage of say that word for me.
Samurai.
Thank you. A near-death experience as a teenager and numerous other spiritual transformative experiences since have inspired her to cheerlead others through their extraordinary experiences towards life, prosperity, joyful livelihood, and to become the agents of awesome they were meant to be. Nicole has a doctorate in integral and transpersonal psychology, is on the advisory board member for Spiritual Awakenings International, mentors coaches for the International Association for Near-Death Studies, as well as the American Center for the Integration of Spiritual Transformative Experiences, is a certified counselor and life coach, and has trained in various healing and energy psychology modalities. But most importantly, she's deeply passionate about co-creating a more beautiful world where each and every person shines their quirky, light, unbashfully bright. You know, it's so amazing. Welcome, Dr. Nicole.
Thank you,
And
Becca.
I have to say, I know that's what your passion is, to help others. And I see that so much in yourself. There was something so special. And I know I said that when I reached out to you about your energy, about the essence of who you are. And, you know, I'm really excited that we were able to make this happen. I know there was some not miscommunication, but distance in our communication. And I'm so excited and happy that this has panned out to work out for the both of us. And I'm really, really excited to hear you today.
Thank you, Brenda. And I am thrilled to be here as well. I was so happy to receive the invitation. Mamas are just the best. And I love engaging in conversations with mamas, for mamas, about mamas, particularly when it relates to being the best mama that we can be, you know. It's the most important job in the world as far as I'm concerned. So I love that you're putting this summit together. I love that I get to be part of the amazing conversation that is happening here. And yeah, thanks.
No, yes. So tell me, what are we going to be talking about today?
So we're talking radical radiance today. I'm going to share six musts or 6 ways to shine your soul light even whilst you're being a busy mama. And I know that sounds completely impossible, but things are fairly simple and straightforward. It's in a nutshell, we're talking about the deep happy, how to find your deep happy and being a mama.
I love that. And I love the whole part, and women need to recognize that we can do that and still be, and when we do that, we'll be an even better mother for our children.
That's the thing. It's like, it's not a matter of doing it and like having this big list and adding to the list on top of that of I've got more things to do and then I've got to be like, I've got to go shine my light. No, it's more like, let's get some basics sorted first. And through doing that, it infuses everything in life that just makes you a happier person and therefore, you know, a happier mama.
Yeah. So tell me, I would love to hear your journey and how you got started here. I mean, there were some really powerful words in your bio about having a near-death experience and other spiritual awakenings. I would love just to hear the journey that got you to be the expert here.
Sure. So, well, an expert being, through life experience, really. Um, I've had a pretty non-ordinary life from the beginning, and my parents were kind of non-ordinary themselves, so it was our ordinary, if you get what I mean.
Mhm.
And but there were some key experiences that happened that I thought were quite okay and usual, and it wasn't until I was older and I really engaged more of a conscious spiritual path and started talking with people about things that I realized, oh, not everyone has had that or sees the world in that way. And that's really normal if you've had spiritual experiences as a kid as well, because that's how you frame the world, right? And I've no doubt, actually, Brenda, that a lot of your mamas on here who are very conscious mamas might even have a lot of kids that are like that now. So this could be of interest to you on that level as well, those listening. Um, so one big experience that happened was when I was 14 years old, and that was a near-death experience. I was whitewater rafting in New Zealand, and had the whole drowning horizon of light underwater, a dead relative come towards me, a deceased pet, like all of that stuff happened. And I survived. A voice told me to remember to breathe, and so I did, and I resurfaced. Um, and then a second, what I
Oh,
call a near-death-like experience happened when I was about 30 years old. And this was to do with my menstrual cycle as well, which was always really, really intense. It would put me into, I'd be out of action for a couple of days. And so I was on one of those cycles in that phase, but this time it was different. And I went in and out of ordinary and non-ordinary states of consciousness for 3 days. And during that time, I ended up doing some very deep shamanic work spontaneously. I kind of went down and met some ancestors on my right side and then my left side, and healed a whole heap of stuff from the past, and met these archetypal dragons. And it was like the only way I can explain it is a shamanic journey of healing, but also a chakra, a kundalini journey of cleansing and awakening as well. It was both at the same time, because obviously I had a whole heap of stuff in my system that I needed to clear and address that I hadn't been ready for up until that point. So it's like the experience took me over. So that I could do that. And the result of that was I came to just this pinprick of light, understanding that that was all I am, a pinprick of light, and not just understanding it, like I experienced it. And from that point, my life was different. I just got that this experience that we're having, this human experience, is a game. It's a game, and we get to have choices in how we play the game. That was the great aha from that. So it completely transformed my life. I just became a lot lighter and more lighthearted after that point. I didn't take things as seriously anymore. Dying the first time wasn't enough. I kind of had to have that experience then to really get it in my head. And then that launched me on a path of really wanting to understand these experiences more deeply. I'd been in ashrams and all kinds of things along the way, and deep into yoga. There's whole other chapters to this big story, but we don't have the time for that today. And but I got to the point where I was like, I now want to help other people understand these types of wild and wacky things that take place, put them into the context of our lives. And because I knew that they're gifts, they come with gifts and they activate gifts so that we can then do things in the world. And my sense of service was always very strong. And it finally came together in this is how I can be of service, is to help other people understand these incredible things that take place that could put you in a psychiatric ward these days. It happens. I speak to a lot of people that, they've got the diagnoses, they've got the meds, and yet these can be the most profound transformative things that happen, that are so important as a species, as humanity, to lift us up and move us forward and clarify certain things about who we are on this planet and why and what we're doing. So I think they're really important that we understand them personally and collectively. So that is my mission, to help folks do that. So I got right into the path of doing that. I got a doctorate in the area. I went all in on that. And then obviously the great universe thought I needed a refresher experience so that I wasn't talking about it from my head anymore. I was back in it. And so when I gave birth to my first child, I had a refresher, what I call a shared death experience, where we almost lost her, and I re-entered that same horizon of light that I went to.
Chills every time you say this.
Yeah, I got chills, I tell you what.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. We both survived, obviously. But wow, I was like, okay, now I feel like I've come full circle. I went to that same horizon, only this time when it happened, I knew exactly where I was. And I even had the language to be able to tell my loved ones, I think I'm having a near-death experience and one of us might not make it. And my poor family, but anyway, we all made it. We're all good. And here we are now today.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's so many things I want to ask you, and I know that you have some really amazing information to share as well. But I do want to just pick up this something that you said that I feel is really important, because not all parents listening to this might not even understand some of the things that you shared. So I guess a couple things, but one I want you to speak into just for a moment is, and I don't know if I heard you right, but you spoke about becoming aware of these your spiritual gifts. That's not exactly how you said it, but the way I interpret it, how that can help you see that in your children. What did you mean by that? Because I have a thought in my head, and I want to see if it's in alignment with what you're saying.
Yeah, as we as parents become more open and more curious about just how incredible we are as human beings and our capabilities. And so that can happen through these spiritual experiences that expand us and challenge our regular modes of thinking. The more that we become open and aware of things, the more we simply have those open, aware lenses to look around us at the world and see that in other people as well. And so naturally, as mamas, so much of our attention is towards our family, our children, and what's going on with them. And I just keep hearing so many accounts of children who are coming into the world, and they do anyway. I don't know that I'm really such a believer that there's this special generation of more awake kids than others. I just think children are just incredibly, awake on so many levels when they arrive, and it's our social constructs that kind of shut so much of that down, because they're magical beings when they come, right? They just stare at you, and who knows what they're seeing. And so for us as parents, part of that is really just allowing that to happen for our kids, keeping the magic alive for them, engaging with the magic that they already bring. And some of them we might observe have particular skills or abilities. And you'll hear about, there's some kids who talk about past life experiences. They don't put it in that language, but some of them will say, who they are, where they lived, what they did. There's this whole body of research around it that has been verified as well. And one of my good friends, she had that experience with her kid. And so she came to me and she's like, is he okay? Like, this is what he talks about. Is it, should I be concerned? And then somebody close to their family died, and the kid was talking about, and that person visits him every evening, and then they were having conversations, and they were doing that for a long time. That's ended now. So kids, their psychic barriers are just so much more open to what is out there. And so as parents, I think our job is to not freak out about that, but particularly those who are conscious and spiritually engaged will more likely, I think, be open to just being curious, like, what is going on with my kid? And for a moment, can we trust that that is truly their reality and not their imagination? And if we do that, that can open up a massive conversation that's very interesting with them.
I love that. Trust that this is their reality in this moment, because, if I just look at my children, I have 3 sons. My one son, actually, they're all very spiritually gifted in different ways. But my one son would see a lot of friends when he was younger, and then not too long ago, maybe about a year ago, and I addressed that for him. He was like, "Mom, what is this?" And I said, "I'm not sure. You have to figure it out yourself. If there's something, they used to hang out in the basement, the friends, and so I was like, you need to talk." And I said, anyhow, I asked him a lot of questions, but I didn't dismiss it because it was really important to him. And this is what I feel the message is that you
Exactly.
want people to hear today. And so thank you for explaining that and bringing that to light. And the other piece, and you can speak into this, or you can go into your the 6 months, because I know I want you to get into that. Um, what exactly is a shamanic healing? Because I'm not sure everybody might know that.
Sure. So shamans are in the old times, before we had the hospitals and all the rest, we had what would be called kind of our medicine people.
Mhm.
And so when we're in the village and someone went through some kind of an ailment, the shaman would be the one that we would go to help explain what was going on. And shamans can see things that are not just of the physical body, but also of the emotional, spiritual, astral. So they like have lenses that are pretty out there, right? And there are many shamans who exist today as well in the modern world. And you would go to them, for example, if you just weren't feeling yourself, or there was something irreconcilable in your life that you just, it was too big and beyond you. And maybe you felt like there was something that was out of your power and control, or not even your story that was there, or a big trauma that's happened in the past and a part of your soul kind of ran away during that experience, and you need to pull it back in. So all of these right now today are experiences that people trained in shamanism can assist with. It's like being, tending to your spiritual health. And so having a shamanic experience is, for me, what that meant was there were pieces of my soul from childhood trauma that had left, and I hadn't been put back together again fully. So I had to meet those parts of myself and call them back in. And the second part of the shamanic journey was going into my ancestry. So, shamans can help us meet our ancestors in that way and talk to them. And, because we know from modern science today that we carry our stories in our own DNA.
Mhm.
So we as present people have the ability to travel back through our own DNA and meet the stories, which is just the people who have created us through our own lineage. And as you'd all know, sometimes there are things that happen in the past that are just not addressed or completed or healed in people's lives, and their life ends. And we can carry that story forward without even knowing it. And so, for me, when I had that experience, all of that had come to the surface and I wasn't consciously aware of it, but there was a part of my being that needed to address it for me to move forward. And so it was presented to me.
Yeah, and I'll just assume that you were maybe not consciously ready, but ready to address them. So
Yeah.
really awesome. Thanks for sharing all that. Just such great stuff.
It goes deep. The rabbit hole's big.
It is. I could talk about this stuff all night long,
Yes.
all day long, depending on where you're at in the world. Um, with that being said, I would love for you to transition into your talk today.
Sure. So I'll share with you. I don't want to make it too dry, but I do want to share with you guys a chart, because it'll help. And so the topic is about, the 6 ways to really bring about radical radiance. And this beautiful wheel here is called the Life Radiance Indicator. And so this is based on modern psychology and well-being psychology. And what they went ahead and did is identify the 6 core areas that we need to be happy in our lives. And what I've found in my work with spiritual people and folks going through their awakening journey is that these 6 areas are fundamental and key, even as being highly spiritual beings that might do what I call the space cadet, which is where sometimes all of your energy is up here and your feet are not on planet Earth. It's even more important for space cadet modes and you know, big spirit people to be fully grounded and healthy. So when I felt into this summit, Brenda, and mamas and radical radiance and happiness, this is what came through to share today. So I'll just touch on each of the 6 areas briefly, and then we can, you know, engage the conversation about them. So the first is life purpose. And this is really that sense of, you know, is there more to my life than this? It's a simple thing about meaning, having meaning and direction in your life. So when we talk about this, it's what is your vision? Do you have a vision? You know, and if you don't, you can start asking yourself the question, what do I really want? And particularly as busy mamas, we get so wrapped up, don't we, in everybody else's life and taking care of other people that it can be so easy to forget what we truly want for ourselves. So this first piece is in that, just taking that moment to come back in and say, what is it that I want? What is this life? What's going to give me a sense of fulfillment and purpose and direction in my life? And if that is as simple as raising some beautiful human beings on this planet, then do that with all of your heart and soul. Because again, I think that's the most important job there really is on this planet, to raise good people. The second part is self-acceptance, especially mamas, you know, busy mamas. I find this to be a massive area of challenge. It's loving ourselves up, you know, and appreciating who we are as we are. There's nothing to improve. There's nothing to change. And if we can be in that space of acceptance, warts and all, and baggy eyes and crazy hair, you know, and sleep deprived, if we can be in that moment and still accept ourselves just as we are, that's the gold. Yeah. And of course, you know, you see that this is a wheel, there are layers to it. We can go deeper and deeper and deeper into that, right? And that doesn't mean having to always improve and make better, but it means expanding it, welcoming, making more space for that in our lives. So again, like self-acceptance, if, you know, it's things like giving yourself a hug, taking time out, if you can, carving out even 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, if you're lucky, for yourself, where you just be you and do you, and, you know, have a bubble bath, put some rose petals in there. Like we're not talking big things here, really simple stuff. Every day is going to be way more valuable. The third area is about talent and potential. So we all have gifts. Every mama has gifts. We're all born into this world. I know you can see it in your children, and there was a time where someone could see it in you. And if you've lost sight of what that is in you, then this is a moment to encourage you to say, tap back into that, because you have that something special as well. So what is that? Is it the ability to make others laugh, to make them feel welcome, to have an incredibly gorgeous environment? Like, what is it that helps you give that extra shine and sparkle to your life? So tap into that. And again, the more we're able to tap into our talent and potential and live our life from that place, as opposed to the societal imposed shoulds and coulds and woulds, you know, the more that we can just do it from our own direction, the happier you're going to be from the inside out, because it's you. It's natural to your being and who you are. So you'll be more energized from day to day. Next part, then, let's jump over to environmental mastery. So this now comes not just the inner self, the bottom half of this circle is like the outer world, right? The top half is more the inner world stuff, the inner work, and now there's the outer world. So here we go to the environmental mastery, and this is like, you know, shit happens in the world, stuff happens, right? Disasters happen every day, children happen, craziness in the household. And so how do we just navigate that with some sense of, I wouldn't say like control, it's not that overbearing control, but mastery is different. It's like, I am able, as the captain of this ship, to steer through whatever's going to surface in this water and still hold it together, right? And so what is needed in your environment to do that? And it can be very practical, like cleansing space, you know, clearing things for yourself. I'll tell you something simple. As a coach and as a mama, when I came back to reclaim my space, I ended up with this beautiful chair, this peacock chair, because I
Love it.
simply needed, and it wasn't even that conscious a decision, but I realized later on, this was like my space, and the rest of my life might be filled with my children. But if I just had this zone that was to me, I knew that when I sat in my throne, that I could just be, you know, in my zone with my people. So even something as small as that, in terms of reclaiming your space, and then you grow your space from there, gives you a sense, as it's given me a sense, of mastery in my environment. Autonomy. This means you doing you, being you, your way. Now, autonomy and connection, the last two, have a funny relationship with each other, because there's that level of doing it our way, but then there's also our relationships. And sometimes those are not in harmony with one another, right? Sometimes we go ahead and we just piss people off that are around us. And we don't want to do that, because a lot of mamas are people pleasers and we want to keep the peace, right, in the family. So you have to find that balance there between doing things in a way that is aligned with the core of you, that is natural to you and your path, whilst also, you know, doing what is beautiful in relationship, doing what is going to grow and nurture your relationship with your children, with your lover, with your partner, with your relatives, etc. Right? So it's a very fine balance there between those ones. So overall, this is a map. And what we know is that, and look, you don't have to do this all at once, and I wouldn't suggest that you do, right? But you can use this moment and this indicator as a way of checking in with each of these 6 major zones in your life and feeling into it. Am I at the center of that circle? Am I like at a 1 or a 2 in that? Or am I right at the periphery and I'm super expanded with that? So check in, where am I, and what is that one next step I can do to enhance that, to increase that, to make that feel better in my life. And once we get a sense of all of these kind of 6 zones, this is what is known as the sweet spot in being that deep happy in our own lives. This is where the magic really comes from, and this is the secret. This is when you break down the secret of what creates deep happiness. It's touching on these areas.
It's so amazing. And I love the simplicity of that. And, you know, if someone is just kind of not in that deep happy or anywhere near it, where would they, is there a particular one that they would start with? Like, would you start with like purpose or acceptance, or
Yeah. I'd start with self-acceptance, somewhere around self-acceptance and autonomy, you know, I'd start with connecting with you, you know, that's a better way of saying it. We each have natural patterns that come, like, we're designed particular ways. We are so intelligently designed as human beings, but we are each designed differently. And so when we get back in touch with our own blueprint, our own design, and we start feeling into just how to do us, that's where the magic begins. All this other stuff can take place after that, but that's where the true magic begins. And we know how to do that as children. You will see it in your own children, that they come through with personalities. I mean, I've got 2 daughters, and, you know, they're already chalk and cheese. Any parent that has more than one is going to be able to see the difference. Like, you're raising them with the same people in the same household, and yet they're different people.
Yep.
So we come through with the blueprint, and we know this from neuroscience, that we are wired in particular ways. So when we can work with our own wiring, then we just operate better. We're more energized. We do things naturally. Another example, Brenda, is the difference between right-handed and left-handedness. You know, if you're a right-hander, you don't even think about it, and you just do things with whatever handedness you are. But as soon as someone asks you to use that other hand, unless you're one of those magical ambidextrous beings, of course, there's always exceptions. But, you know, let's talk about the rest of us, right? The general population. if you're asked to use your non-dominant hand, it feels really awkward, and you can do it, but it's unnatural. So that's what I'm talking about. Get back to what is natural and normal for you, that you don't even have to think about doing. And that is the zone where you will just be energized. You'll do things well from that space. And then you can start to feel into those growing edges. Yeah.
I love that, because I totally believe if you aren't connected with you, there's no way you'll be able to find your life purpose or handle anything outside of you. You may pretend you are, but then it shows up in other areas that you're not. What is something that someone could do to begin that process of self-acceptance?
Yeah. And to connect with their natural self and to remember it, right?
Yes.
I guess that's what you're asking for people who just feel disconnected or can't remember. Go back to when you were a kid. Try and recall times in your life when you were a kid, and I understand some people had a painful, had a painful childhood. So if that's painful to do, recall times when you're in your zone, when you just feel at ease and natural, and you could do something all day long without being aware of the time of day. Those are hints at what is most natural to you. And hang out in those spaces a little bit. And then the more you hang out in those spaces, the next step will present from there. Yeah, but get reacquainted with your zone.
I love that. And it's actually a common theme through the summit, through the series. That has come up a few times. So I love it, because it's just affirming that these are actions to do and to take to get reconnected, to really start to own you or recognize who you are in your own essence. What is, how do you know, this may seem like a silly question, but I'm going to ask it because there's perfectionist people out there, right? How do you know? How do you know or trust? And it's maybe two different questions, but how do you know or trust that you are in that expansive place? Like, I remember talking to one of my clients, and to me, I'm like, holy moly, you're amazing. Like, this is so amazing. But they were always overthinking, like, oh, am I doing it right? Is it happening? How does one get to that point to even recognizing that they're in this space? I'm asking multiple questions here. I'll go back to the first. How does someone trust or know that they're in that space of radiance?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And I think you're right. It's in a way two different questions as well, because between trust and knowing. Mm-hmm. It's like when you know, end of story. But trusting is different, because you want to believe it, you want to know it, and you have to find a level in you that risks trusting it. So how can you trust, and how can you know that you're in that space of radical radiance? One is
you just have your essence. They just need to look at you when you look like Dr. Nicole.
Oh, I hope not. You're going to feel it. That's going to be one indicator. You're going to feel more you than you have ever felt before. You're going to feel natural in your being, and it's going to feel good, right? It might not look like what you think it's going to look like, and it certainly might not look like what other people tell you it should look like. It's certainly not going to look like any of those magazines or glossy images or people's perfect pictures on social media, but it's going to be you, and it'll just feel nice and good, right? So that's one area where you know. And the second is it will be reflected back to you. People are going to say like, what are you drinking lately? Or what are you doing? Why are you so happy? Yeah, people will be a little bit like, what's going on with you? Have you got more sex in your life? Like, what is it? Because they're going to see something reflected back, our light, our deep happy ignites a light. You know, when our soul is turned on, it's like that warm fire in wintertime. When we're just turned on and it's calm and it's warm and it's happy and it's glowing and it's light, you're going to do things that it's infectious. And you're going to do things where other people will want to be around you. It'll be like moths to the flame. You know, they'll come and they'll just want to hang out in that space with you because it feels good to be with you, because you feel good to be with you. You are your own best company. You're not relying on others to make you feel good. You're not depending on situations, you know, to affirm you or validate you. You are 100% okay with you in your own space as you are in each moment. Nothing has to change for you to be happy and content in your zone. That's when you know it, right? And again, you'll see it reflected back to you. So that's all. Yeah, super important. And the trust, I wanted to, you triggered something in me to share, Brenda. It's the trust. I call this the big P and the little p, right? The P being for plan. So the little p plan is like my plan, what I want to do, right? Me personally, how I want to have my perfect life. Because you talked about perfectionists, right? So here's my perfect life. Here's my perfect plan. Here are all of my ducks in a row. Tick, 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 tick. There's our little p plan. And for those of us who are in touch a little bit with the universe and the great cosmos, there's the big P plan. And if we're not in touch in the big P plan, I can guarantee you at some point in your life, you will be exposed to it. It will let itself be known in your life, because that's when your little P plan, where it just doesn't go to plan at all. You know, you're like, but all of this, you know, I had all of this figured out, but then that happened. And the way that we know when a big P plan, that is the universe's plan for us, is what I'm talking about. The way that we know that has happened in our life is when probably years later, you can look back and go, do you know what? That was not what I intended, but that was exactly what I needed. That was the best thing that ever happened for me. It was painful. It was awful. It was horrible at the time. I didn't like it at all, but it was the best thing that happened for me, because if that didn't happen in my life, I wouldn't be here today, or I wouldn't understand or know this thing in my life that's really precious. So for all the perfectionists out there, that's also another way of, you know, that gauge of knowing and trusting, right? Is we can be in our own P plan, but every now and then we'll get those indicators that either we're aligned with the big P plan, and that's when things are going to run smooth and we know. But then sometimes we get this intuitive sense, like, even though I have my plan, something just doesn't feel right. Something's a bit off, and I don't quite know what that is. And that just might be that moment when the big P plan, we're out of alignment. How do we get back in alignment? Get back to that natural core self that you are. And from that space, trust. From that space, trust that it's going to work out, even if we can't see the big P plan. And then just take that one next step, whatever that is. Don't get overwhelmed with the big plan. Don't try and construct absolutely everything. If it calms your mind down to do that, do it as a mental exercise, but know that it's probably not going to work out that way, you know? And so just take that one next little step.
Yeah. And I have to share this, like, you know, the little plans, when you're doing the little P, it's not that they, in my experience, it's not that they couldn't happen, but it was a lot of effort. There was a lot of me putting all of my energy in, and then it's completely burnt out afterwards. Dalton didn't know how to handle it. Didn't want to have to do it again if I had to, like that. And so that's when I realized, when I did that, that's when I realized that I was like, okay, I'm not in the driver's seat. I have my idea, and I need to step back and let the big plan come in and work through it.
Totally. And burnout's a key word there. That is a big way to know that you are moving out of alignment with your natural way of being, because your natural self is going to energize you. When you come from just who you are at your core, you're going to wake up energized, even if you're sleep deprived. And I'll put my hand up to that now. I have a newborn. Yeah, even though, well, and even with the bigger kids, right? So even if you're not getting your beautiful 8 hours, where did that 8 hours of sleep go? I look back on that now and just go, wow, I wish I
It
had
does
that
come
again.
back, but then it leaves
I hope
again.
so. I look forward to that. So even when you don't have that, and your sleep is broken and things are crazy and all the rest, when you're coming from that zone of natural genius and intelligence that is your blueprint, it's just you and who you are, that is effortless. There is no effort involved there because that will naturally energize from the inside out. Given you have to do things like, try and get some sleep when you can and eat a good diet. I mean, these are the fundamentals that help them be around some good people. That all assists, but that core self will energize you more than drain you. So when you're hitting those points of burnout, that's an amazing time to just put the brakes on and go, how can I just reconnect with me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I two more things, Dr. Nicole, is one is I know that you have something very special to gift everybody today. And so I'd love for you to share what that is.
Totally. So as you can see back here, this is my Agents of Awesome manifesto. So I have a Facebook tribe of people called the Agents of Awesome. And these are folks who have had, for the most part, spiritual or transformative experiences or identify as like being on a journey of awakening, who have in them this sense of, I want my life to be purposeful and meaningful and be of service, and are figuring out that journey and what that looks like. So we've got people on that whole spectrum of, I'm having experiences right now, through to like they're documentary filmmakers, and they're just doing their stuff out in the world and amazing, right? So the whole spectrum is there. So you're welcome to come along to my Agents of Awesome tribe on Facebook. That is free, and it's a great community of people. You'll get the link, and
Right below.
the gift, it's below, and the gift here is the manifesto, because we're busy mamas, and this you can print out on one sheet of paper, stick up in the kitchen or in the bathroom, wherever you want. And it is full of affirmations to reconnect with that zone of genius and brilliance that you are, that will activate your natural radiance, your radical radiance. So all you have, it's that simple. You print and you read a line every day, and you keep repeating it to yourself like a mantra. And that's all you have to do.
I say put it in the bathroom because you're in the bathroom every day. So I used to have affirmations in my bathroom, in my kitchen, on my front door, my car. I needed to be reminded often of who I was.
Exactly. We all do. We
Yeah.
all do.
Yeah. I feel like you've shared so much, so many great resources and information and things people can do to create that radical radiance. And so as we close out our session today, I would love for you to share, one action step that they could take today to deepen that. It could be something you already shared or something different, but they could start today and really go into that deeper happiness that you called, or radiant
Radical radiance. Yeah.
And then to wrap up, share any final thoughts that you would like to share that you feel called to share after that.
All I would say, and I'm going to keep it really simple, is breathe in the essence of you. And if that means just stopping, like when you're doing the dishes or whatever it is, just stop and take 5 breaths and just breathe in you. Have the intention to just be in that space of knowing and connecting with your essence. It's that simple. 5 deep breaths from that space. And what I find is it's like this still spot where everything else like ripples in a pond, it just gets figured out. So it's that simple. That's the step. And I would encourage you to do that every day. 5 breaths with the intention of connecting in with your own brilliance, your own magnificence, that eternal space that is you.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
5 deep breaths of your essence.
Of your essence. And the last point is related to that. It would just be you. That's the one message from this whole thing. If you take nothing else, it's just you. Be you. It's 2 words, because there's no one else like you on the planet. and be you for your kids. You know, that's the strongest thing. That's the most impactful thing. They're not going to remember so many of the words that you said, but they're going to remember the essence of you. That's what we leave behind. So just do you, be you as best you can, as wild and wacky and quirky as that is. And if you've had bits of you that have been shut down before in the past, gently welcome them back. You know, you'll probably find that your kids delight and love that about you, that weirdness, you know, that you're not so perfect, because it gives them permission to be themselves and be not so perfect as well, because none of us are perfect. We're all like perfectly imperfect, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I just have to point out this one thing you said. I feel is so super powerful and so needed to hear. And that's be you, because they leave the essence. You leave the essence of who you are with your children or your family or whoever you live with. And you know, it doesn't matter if the house is clean. It doesn't matter if everything's in order. None of that. Not that it doesn't matter, because it can help someone be who they are, right? That is the essence of some people. But the truth is, the essence of who you are, when you show up as you, that's what you're leaving your children. And I love that. I love that. So I can't thank you enough. I am so excited that we connected and we were able to make this happen. And I appreciate you and everything that you shared today. Just such awesome stuff. And so I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And for you listening, take your action, whether it's your 5 breaths, whether it's deepening your self-acceptance, whether it's looking into what is your life purpose, whatever it is, take the action today. Start now, because now is where things can change. Tune in to your next interview, and I'll see you there. Hold on, I lost you.